This is Taylor Gray, voice of Ezra Bridger on Star Wars Rebels, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
You're risking everything. You can ask what you want.
If I died tonight, was it worth it?
Listen.
Oh dear, you found me.
What are you doing here?
I'm afraid that's a secret.
The secrecy, the overcharging, mocking Imperial protocols, laughing at us.
Okay. We get the idea.
It's been a rough few days.
Is everything all right?
I've had some business go sour. Things have gone to a head.
This is Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z.
Can you hear that? It's the sound of a burgeoning rebellion. That's right. Andor is back. Andor Season 2. We are so excited. I'm your host, Dan Zehr of Coffee with Kenobi, and this is a big series. It's a big show. We're going to, as I've said a few times, we're going to make sure and milk this thing because green milk and blue milk, whichever kind you prefer, right? Thalia Sirens or from Banthas, whatever you want. We're going to talk about each episode of Andor over the next 12 weeks. There are 12 episodes. Disney Plus is bundling them together, which is great. The arcs, the 4 arcs are fantastic, but we're just going to, there's so much to cover. So we've got to get a blockbuster group of my favorite Rebels to talk about the first episode of Andor Season 2. The episode is called 1 Year Later. So first, let's bring him in. He has, it hasn't been a year since he's been on, but you know what? You can just never get enough of Tom Gross. Tom, welcome back to the show.
Well, hello. It's great to be back on the show. And Dan, welcome back to the show.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
It's great to have Coffee and Kenobi back on the air, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, that's great. Yeah, it's thanks to everybody for reaching out. And on my extended 6-week vacation, it's really nice to be back behind the microphone. I'm a little rusty. I heard I was editing the show, and I'm like, oh boy, I've got some work to do. That's why I've got this blockbuster crew to bring in. This next guest, he's fresh back. His Star Cruiser just landed from Star Wars Celebration Japan. He's got lots of stories, lots of smiles, great pictures. The one and only Ross Hollebon. Ross, welcome back to the show.
Friends, how are you? I'm great, and I think I'm finally back on Eastern time. So it's that feels great after a week.
Was it hard? So was jet lag a fun experience for you?
Yeah, I mean it was a 13-hour difference. So, and we spent 17 days there. So the last 3 days were celebration, obviously, but we got acclimated to being there, and I think 5 different cities, 5 different hotels, a train pass, and just soaking in and being so fortunate to soak in that culture and history, starting with Hiroshima and then working all our way to Tokyo, and then where Celebration was as well. So it was amazing, but ending with the 3 days of Star Wars was just incredible.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Well, speaking of incredible, just you wait, friends. We've got a guest on. This is his first ever podcast, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Please meet Coffee with Kenobi's dear friend, John Heil. John, welcome to the program. We're so glad to have you.
I'm the rookie. This is an honor to join you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, John's son and my son Mason, they were on the same baseball team for years, and somehow the names, the phrase Star Wars came up. So John and I started talking, and it was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And then I found out that John loved season 1 of Andor. So look, when Andor season 2 comes out, we're going to have you on the show. And I am a man of my word. Not like Han Solo. You can trust me. You can trust me. Let's talk about
long time coming. Yep.
Yes, absolutely. We're looking forward to it. Let's talk about the anticipation level of this season, right? When we talk about the episode, we've all seen the first three, but we're only going to talk about the first one. Like that's the only one that's been released. Ross, what was your anticipation level like before you watched the premiere of season 2 of Andor?
Oh, through the roof. Like one of those things where it was probably like when I was waiting, decades ago at this point, for the Lord of the Rings films to come out. Like, okay, how long do I have to wait for this to happen? And then when the prequels were coming out back in the day. So one of those entertainment events where time couldn't pass fast enough to finally be able to see this. And then again, having Celebration, and I got a photo op with Alan Tudyk and Diego Luna, since Rogue One's my favorite film. And that just built it more of just like, oh my God, now I have to go through a 13-hour flight to get back and watch this thing the day after I get back. So it had just so much build up, even more than a normal show would.
So season 1 of Andor, is it? I actually don't know this. Is it your favorite Disney Plus Star Wars series?
It's there with Rebels. Okay. I can't leave Sabine out of the equation, but it's live action, yes.
Okay, right on. Tom, I know, like Ross, I believe Rogue One is your favorite Star Wars film, right? It's your favorite, Ross? Favorite Star Wars film? Okay. Yep. So what was your level of anticipation like for this season?
So this was, I have to say, it was quite off the charts. Probably the only other thing that I had so much anticipation for Star Wars wise in the modern time, not when I was a kid, but was probably the excitement of Force Awakens coming out. I think that might be a little bit more than this, only because I was able to, share that experience with my daughter. I knew she would have her own Star Wars hero coming out of that and all that sort of thing. So it was kind of a different sort of level, but this was, I went and watched the whole season 1 of Andor over our spring break. So about 3 weeks ago, which just ramped it up. It was so much better watching it the second time because all of the little things that are going to happen, and then when they're almost previewed or projected earlier in earlier episodes, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't catch that the first time around. So you had all of that, and then I can only imagine the experience Ross had in Japan, but sitting at home watching the panels and the Star Wars stage interviews, it was almost unbearable because the crowd's excitement for Diego Luna and Alan Tudyk when they came out and when they talked, and they almost couldn't even have their interview because the crowd was so jacked for them. And so I just felt that. I felt all of it and those people. And then help me with the actor and actress of Deidre and Saren. I don't know what their names are.
Cyril Karn and Deidre Merrill.
Yeah. When they came out, I didn't know that I would be so happy just watching those two, because they're so kind of awful and creepy in the show. To see them as human beings and as the actors they are, the wonderful actors they are, it was just over. It just put it over, it was great. And so let's just say it was anticipation off the charts for me, for sure.
I've had them on the show, and the actress who plays Deidre, she is a riot. She is hilarious. She is quite the opposite of her on-screen persona. That, thank goodness, I think, for the universe. John, as we just, of course, I mentioned when we introduced you that I knew how much you loved not Rebels, but Andor. Is Rogue One your favorite movie also, or is it high up there for you?
Well, in the sort of Disney era of Star Wars movies, I say, yeah, absolutely yes. To me, it fit right within sort of my favorite feel of Star Wars movies. So yes, I'm definitely an Andor a Rogue One fan, and that's one of the reasons why I loved Andor so much. As far as my anticipation went, I think the early part of what Tom just said matched me pretty closely. I've been trying to sell proclaim the gospel of Andor forever to everyone I know, that they have to watch this show, that it not as a Star Wars show, but as a television show. This is fantastic stuff. This is compelling stuff. This speaks so much to so much going on in the world that you have to watch it. And so I was certainly over the moon when I heard it was finally coming back. I was impatient, and I'm so glad it's finally here.
I was looking forward to it. I liked season 1. I ranked it pretty high in my list from about a month or so ago of ranking the Disney Plus live action Star Wars series. And we also separated series by seasons as well. So Mando season 1 and Mando season 2 were considered separate for this list. And I ranked Andor pretty high. I did write this in my review on coffeewithkenobi.com that the reason this series it works so well is because it puts the war in Star Wars, but it's not contingent upon the lore of Star Wars to be a good show. It's just a really well-made show. And I think that stands in this episode. So we'll just kind of go in the same order for this one. And I'm just going to throw out, we're going to kind of see where things lie. But Ross, give me one word to describe 1 year later and overall thoughts on the episode.
The word I'm going to use is web. We obviously get hit over the head with the Gorman's fighters, but how everyone is pulled into this thing, whether they like it or not, and not being able to get out. They're all stuck in a web that is like an evil 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Right. Interesting. Yes, very good. And you did a good job because, as I said, we're only talking about the first episode. And you're right. There's quite a bit there. Tom, what's your word and overall thoughts on this episode?
So my word is going to be less about the show and more about my experience, and that is fast. This was the fastest 56 minutes of television watching ever. I couldn't believe when the credits came up that it was time for that. I could not believe that. My first impressions and why it felt fast to me is we were really skidding along different stories, and they're all things that we've been anticipating. And some of them were things I was like, I kind of had to shake my head and go, wait a minute. Okay. 1 year later. Okay. Things that I'd kind of forgotten about. Like, this is a huge thing, but it just was kind of minor in the whole, when I think about the season 1, I completely forgot that that they were going to marry off, that Mon and Perrin were going to marry off their daughter. Holy cow. How did I forget that? But when that came up, I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? How did I forget? And so it went really quickly, and there was a lot to remind us of and a lot of stories to kind of start the engine back up for. And so I think by the time those 56 minutes went by, there was just a lot that happened. And so it was quite fast for me.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that. John, what about you? One word to describe this episode and overall kind of thoughts on it.
I've been thinking of one desperately while everyone's talking. And so my word isn't that good, but I think I can explain it. And that doesn't roll off the tongue very well, but expanded. And, I think of Andor himself. The first moment you meet him, he's progressed. He's more confident. He is now a trusted member of the rebellion who has the capacity, the human capacity, because of experience and confidence, to calm down someone else and to really soothe her in a terrifying moment. So he's expanded. Obviously, the project the Empire is working on is becoming more of a large, expanded political and reality. And of course, now you have the wedding. It's really happening. It's not just conceptual. Your expanded view of the Mothma's beautiful estate and all of Chandrilla in the area. Everything is bigger, more locations, more of everything. So that's immediately evident to me in the first episode.
Excellent. I think my word is apt. I think this is just an apt debut episode for season 2 because you've got the suspense, you've got the tension. You can see this is a mature concept, mature stakes. There's a lot of things at play. It's not about pew pew bang bang and gee whiz and lightsaber. It's really not. I mean, yes, there's this great sequence at the beginning with this tie adventure prototype, which is a fabulous thing. I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit. But other than that, it's really about these characters and the weight that they have, the cost that is at stake here. And it only gets better. And it kicks off by the first time we've seen on-screen acknowledgement of the timeline, right? 4 years before the Battle of Yavin, BBY, before Battle of Yavin. Mm-hmm. That's never been on screen before. It's been in books, and they've kind of changed the timeline around a bunch of times. And I knew this was one that they were partial to as creators. So it was very exciting to me. It kind of fleshed it out for me and made it seem a little bit more real and tangible inside the world itself. As we've been doing over the past couple of Coffee with Kenobis, when we review seasons of Star Wars animation or live action, we just kind of talk about things that jump out. We're not going to necessarily go in chronological order. I just want to talk to you all about things that jump out to you about this episode that you really want to talk about. And I'll start with this one. We'll go in reverse order this time just to kind of spice it up a little bit because that's what Cassian would do. And I want to talk about Cassian first. I'm really struck. I've watched it a couple times. I'm really struck by how much he has changed since the Battle of Ferrix. How much he has, the way he handles this woman who is clearly newly into the rebellion, the way he handles her. There are certain things he says, I didn't actually write them down, about basically doing everything you can, standing up for yourself. You will feel better because you're standing up to the Empire. That was really invigorating for me. And then these two, they're almost like these feral people. I don't think they're feral. I think they're hungry. I think they're thirsty. I think they're confused. I think they don't have any leadership. And they're kind of turning on each other, not kind of, as you see at the end of the episode. But he handles them not with aggression. I mean, he's pretty tough. I mean, he could probably take them out, but he doesn't. I mean, now he is handcuffed, so that's part of it. Let's be clear. But the fact that the way he handles it, and he's really improved his ability to negotiate as opposed to sticking to violence and anger, that tells me we're in for a nice ride with Cassian Andor as a character, and Diego Luna's performance already just in this first episode is just fantastic. So that's kind of where I want to take it. So feel free to weigh in on that or go into yours if you want to.
So I'll jump in on that because it's been something on my mind. So I'm glad you mentioned it, Dan. And I want to talk a little bit about, and John, you brought this up originally, the conversation he has with the other rebel spy when he's getting ready to steal the TIE fighter. I couldn't help while watching this but think about the opening when we first meet him in Rogue One, and he's talking to a rebel spy there on
Kafrene.
Yes. And the intensity of that conversation versus the intensity of this one, where they're about this, like you would think they'd have about equal, but I mean, he ends up shooting the rebel in the other one, which only tells you, and he's even sort of frantic himself in that one. So you realize how dire the situation is by the time Rogue One rolls around. And that really was a stark contrast to me. But I can't probably explain it any better than you did, Dan, but the conversation he has with her was so inspiring. I was not expecting that from him. And it also took me a moment when he was there as a rebel spy to realize, oh, okay, he is in. Because when we left him on Ferrix, it was still a little up in the air what his future held. I mean, we knew because of the events of Rogue One, but in the story we didn't. And so it was nice to see that decision had been made, and to only imagine what that last year must have been like for Cassian.
If I could jump in, I'd love to talk about Director Krennic's meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
I just loved it. I've watched it like 3 times because there's so much going on there. I think, and maybe I'm drawing conclusions, but that's okay. There's just so many layers there. So you have this super secret meeting that he goes to great lengths to explain his super secret meeting.
That's actually the official title of the meeting too.
Right. Sure. Yeah. And so the importance of it is just drummed into you. Not even Tarkin's aware of this. The Emperor will tell him in his due time, that kind of thing. And then the screen comes down and you have this fantastic 1960s-esque travel log thing. I loved it. I loved everything about that. They didn't change it in any way from stuff we would be familiar with from sort of back in the day. Okay, that's the way it is in a galaxy far, far away too. So it was a splendid little addition that was humorous and also again continue to kind of humanize this galaxy, right? I mean, this is trade. This is here's where this wonderful fabric comes from. It comes from these spiders on this one world. And then, of course, he breaks into how important this is, and there's something else. There's this mineral, and from that point forward, I just there's all these different aspects to it. The word choice he uses, well, it could become necessary, and we're just planning here, and about it in the event, in the possibility that we're going to have to take this by force. Everything's a possibility. We're hoping that won't be necessary, even if there might be a synthetic version of this that might work. But if it doesn't pan out, we'll have to take it from this planet. And, and then you're beginning to hear a little more with the side conversations. Well, there's already a brand new armory that's just been put together for the purpose of taking this by force. Clearly he's seeking out just how to do this best. You have these 2 spin doctor guys stand up and go through their classic sort of Washington, D.C., how to utilize public opinion to go against the folks that live on that planet to get their way. It's so clever and makes use and so not simple, which is the thing I like best about Andor. Nothing's black and white in this show, nor is it in the real world. And just the deception upon deception upon deception, I find wonderful. And also sort of the central deception to the entire presentation, to this august, super secret group, is that all of this is for the Empire's or the Emperor's energy program, because he wants limited energy for everyone's use. And it's for the lenses of the reactors. For this, everybody would agree that that's a wonderful thing. Of course, he's lying to them even.
And he does it with a smile, by the way. Like they know he's lying.
So great. And then, of course, the solution given in the end, well, you need an insurgency you can count on to do the wrong thing. Of course you do. And that reinforces, and I'm forgetting her name again.
Daedra Mero.
She wanted, this seems like a stupid thing to her. She's kind of rolling her eyes a little bit during the meeting, not literally, but kind of, you see it in her face, like, why am I even here? And then she just gives him that answer. And then that's, I think, all you see of her.
It is.
But it shows that, okay, well, she still is a very, very, very clever and slippery character.
And the fact that he thinks so highly of her, she comes recommend. He personally requested her at this meeting, and as you described really well, like that the door to the platform window closes, and they're in the dark because there's only 20 of them. That everybody in this room are the only ones who know about this, and they show that Gorman video, propaganda video, travel video thing, and the fact that he wanted her there, and she just delivers. And I think when she says, I'm getting all the information, like she is extremely cerebral. And yeah, these are real. These aren't mustache twitching villains that we're only on screen to sell some Legos or action figures. Like these characters are all part of this intricate web and I love that, Ross, web was your word, because wow.
And even expressed in this group, right?
Mm-hmm.
These high imperial officer group and scientists, there was genuine concern among some of them for the population.
Yep.
How are we going to handle this? So it was great. It wasn't like they were all uniform and lockstep.
Exactly.
It was a tremendous scene, I thought.
Amongst the Imperials, they don't all agree, and there's some humanity in there, and some ambivalence, and there's all different kinds. It's not lockstep. Go ahead, Ross.
Yeah, and it's the Empire evolving or devolving into the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
As you're seeing this, because you're even getting these individuals that are plucked into here by Krennic, who are just like, wait, they're 800,000 Gormans. They're not just going to roll over. And then talking about they're proud, they have political ties, they have money, all of these things that in other groups, like, we don't care anymore. We're doing the bidding of one person now. Mm-hmm. So it makes you think in the strategic communication element, and that's my education background, a lot of my experience as well. As you're watching this and thinking about meetings of how do you try to convince someone of something and make it think it's their idea, as they're talking through all of this, it's in the Ministry of Enlightenment, just having that title for it as well is just so inherently evil, in such an entertaining way here, but
right.
It is crafted wonderfully, and it's no surprise from Tony Gilroy.
Exactly. Tom, what's the first thing you'd like to bring up?
Oh gosh, we've covered so many things that were on my list. Let's talk about. Yeah, let's do this. Opening, as the show begins, we hear the bell of Ferrix.
Mm-hmm. The gong.
The gong. Yeah, it's not a bell, but yes, the that. And boy, that gave me chills. And so I'm going to use that to launch to. Let's talk about the group from Ferrix. That's Brasso, Tally, Bix, and Will, who have found a place. And again, I just cannot help but wonder, how did they find this look? Like, did the rebels put them here? Did Cassian put them here? Did they find this spot themselves? Like, I don't know. We don't know the answer to those questions, but I just, that goes through my head when I see 1 year later. It just makes me think, so what's happened in that year that gets us to where we are today? But
right.
So here they are. They're in a different setting. They're in this agricultural world with these wonderful wheat fields with paths through them. Reminds me when I was a kid, my best friends and I, we'd go to these cornfields that were not too far from us, and we'd make paths in the cornfields. I'm sure to the chagrin of the farmer, but we were teenagers, tweenagers really. But it reminded me of that. But it's just a really interesting way that, like, no space is wasted here. They don't have roads. They just have to, create paths, these skinny paths through their wheat. And so you realize how important this agriculture is to the whole system. And they even mentioned that at some point. And so it was just good to see all of them kind of back together. Not back together, but for us to see them all together, and all of their roles here in this new world. I have written down, but I'm sorry, I don't remember that Bix has a nightmare, but I do not recall what the nightmare is. I just remember that it was important. That's what happens when you see the show once.
No, I get it. It's like nighttime in their little cabin home, and like it's almost like there's a path of wheat fields on either side, and then it's nighttime, and all of a sudden you're aware that the doctor that tortured her from season 1 walks by a window, and you can see his reflection. And then he's walking. It looks like he's walking in the room, and then she wakes up, and it's Brazos that wakes her up because he knows she's having a nightmare, and everyone is very aware of it. And B2 says we need to let Cassian know about this. He'll want to know, and she'll be fine. And so, yes, very much, she's having some massive PTSD.
So 1 year did not cure that, as you know. No one would expect that in real life, but in film, you kind of wonder,
Right.
Do things unusually repair themselves? And this just shows that is not something. Bix is not okay still. But as as we see here, she's got her feet on the ground, and she's able to be a contributing member of this group. And so I didn't really have anything important to say with that, other than it's good to see that this is a piece that's of the puzzle that is back with us. And these are going to be important characters moving forward.
And we don't just forget about them. And Bix is important in this because there's that sequence where the Imperial starship goes overhead. And it's very much like the digital, it's like the digital model from the second season of Mandalorian. Yes. That Mando and Bo-Katan break into. It's that same kind of a ship. But the look on her face, they're all scared when they realize the Empire's here. The woman says, I've only seen this like when I was a little girl, so it doesn't happen. And she is terrified, petrified. It's a reminder to us, as we saw hauntingly, the cavalier attitude that the Imperials have towards Gorman. We see the impact that they have and how dangerous they are. Ross, what would you like to bring up? What's the first thing you'd like to bring up?
Well, and I think this fits in and helps cover an area maybe we haven't touched as much. Luthen is not in the shadows here. So we're getting Mon Mothma, who has the weight of the world on her shoulders 10 times over. And Genevieve O'Reilly and what she's able to do with this character and change facial expressions and welcome someone right as she's getting crushing news at the same time and spin it all together again, just into this powerful professional person. And then all of a sudden it's like the biggest thing that hits her is just like, uh-oh, why is his ship here? Mm-hmm. And I remember when she did that look and went that way, I turned to Monica and I was like, oh, it's Luthen showing up here. And what a great way to introduce him. And again, this goes back to that web. He's not just associated with her. He's associated with the wealthy criminal who is now helping with the money on all these things as well, even though they're all separated. So you're always a step away from trouble one way or the other. And I think there's nothing better than to kind of drop him into this beehive to really ratchet up the stakes right away.
Beehive is a good descriptor.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
And Mothma, the whole first season, we meet somebody who's in just this terribly untenable position, but she's willing to do it. And I always pictured her basically being like in a vice, getting squeezed. And now she also has her daughter's wedding and all the very human dynamics that go into that, and the parking space problem and this and that and everything else that you have to deal with at the same time. Plus her childhood friend might not, he seems like something's wrong with him too. what a rich character for to see and to it's so wonderfully done.
She is really tragic because from season 1 we remember for her to basically agree for her daughter to be married, she had to align with the criminal element and give up her daughter before she was ready to. And besides, she has a very tenuous relationship with her daughter and certainly with her husband as well. So as you've all mentioned, Genevieve O'Reilly is just a powerhouse. She's fantastic the way she changes her expressions and her emotions to meet what people expect of her, but also to be someone like, even though she's trying to spin a lot of plates, it doesn't seem like she's acquiescing to anybody. Like she's not someone that is a pushover. But filming wise, what the director, I don't remember the director of this, but Al Gilroy, of course, is the writer on these first three. He only wrote the first 3 episodes of season 12 of Andor. But these tracking shots as she's going down the stairs and the camera keeps flipping to different people and getting their reactions as they're walking towards and conversely walking towards us as we take on the persona of Mon Mothma quite briefly in a first-person style. And the fact that it's moving around so quickly, the pacing, just like her life, just like what she's having to juggle and deal with, the beehive that you mentioned, Ross. It's all done through the dialogue, through her expressions, and the camera showing us the way these things are moving around. It reminds me of the beginning of, what's that movie that Michael Keaton was in? Was it Birdman? Was that it? The movie that was up for several Oscars years ago. It was kind of like his comeback. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Probably right. I didn't see it, but that was the movie, I think.
That takes place but backstage for a play. And the way this was shot reminded me of that. And it's the same thing with these different characters and these intense emotions going on, and a lot of behind the scenes of how people are interacting with each other. And everyone's got their own agenda, but they're also piecemealing other relationships too. It's really fantastic. And I am doing such a good job of not giving anything away. So I'm just going to turn off my microphone.
It's hard. And what I keep thinking when I see Mon Mothma, I felt these things earlier in the first season, but this episode, it really came out in me, and all of these things that are under kind of in the underbelly of her life that we don't really know and we didn't really know. It just kind of makes me feel like her strength and resolve is right up there with Princess Leia.
Oh yeah.
Very different characters and very different situations, but the way in which she's able to juggle a rebellion, being a senator in a failing Senate, and being a mother to a daughter that really is, chides her, and a husband that is, I feel like, unfaithful in so many different ways. She has a lot that she is carrying, but all of it is, but you can tell as a mother and as a leader and as a rebel, she is passionate about every one of those, and everything she does is for something else. And it's just, she's become an amazing figure for me. I mean, when you think about it, in the whole Star Wars story, she starts early in the story, and she goes really late into the story as well. I mean, she goes well into the story past Return of the Jedi and all that. And so she's an amazing character, and this is just developing her character to a point of so much respect.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, we've already talked so much, and we've probably scratched the surface of this thing. And I also am aware that we do have bedtimes to a degree. Those of us recording this. So let's just do kind of a rapid fire, a quick one extra thing that we want to talk about. And maybe do we want to bring up something that didn't work? I don't really have anything that didn't work for me, so I don't even know if that's even worth bringing up yet.
Well, I have one thing I kind of questioned, which was, what's up with this TIE fighter? Why is it so impossible to fly? Why is everything backwards inside of it? And why does it have every weapon ever created on it? It's the craziest machine. I know it's a test model, but
Mm-hmm.
it amuses me how just incredibly different from anything obviously the characters had ever seen before, that makes it that much of a puzzle.
So I can actually answer that. It's like I said, it's a TIE Avenger prototype. It is the design is somewhat inspired by Kylo Ren's TIE Whisper from The Rise of Skywalker. TIE Avenger as a concept first was featured in 1994's TIE Fighter computer game. And when Cassian escapes in it and he's being chased by those TIEs that look a little bit different, you don't have a close-up look of them. These are the same TIEs that Sienna Imperial Base testing. These are TIE Advanced prototypes, first seen in season 1 of Star Wars Rebels show episode Empire Day. Okay, I don't have that memorized. I looked it up. But the thing that's cool about this, and if we want to look at it from a story perspective, which seems to make sense, this is happening concurrently as season 1 of Star Wars Rebels. Where so the rebellion, there's no unifying rebellion yet. That is not happening. It's starting to happen, but it can't happen until Mon Mothma shows up in Star Wars Rebels, which isn't yet. Okay, so there's these different factions. I think that's why we see this group on the planet where Cassian lands, and he's trying to meet up with his friend who's going to take this TIE the rest of the way. And these factions are having such a hard time because they're sort of a rebellion in their own right, but there's no unification to that. And this TIE is such a mystery to them because no one has seen anything like it. So, of course, Cassian wouldn't have any idea how to fly it because nobody had ever seen it before. And that helps to give them some research for stuff that happens later in Star Wars.
I was thinking there's a instance where another rebel gets into a TIE fighter and has the same problem, but I cannot put my finger on.
Season 1. It's with Ezra and Zeb.
Okay.
Like
Oh yeah.
Rebels. Yeah. Yep.
I love talking about that. Another thing that I really enjoyed was seeing range troopers again.
That was cool.
So, as they're
from Solo.
As they're in there and seeing that from Solo, it's just such a cool design. So seeing that get repurposed and showing up again, where it's not just stormtroopers, they have this, and I think that helps build out that just the stormtrooper lore with all of these different elements, and it's such a cool design one that I thought it was awesome to see that, even if that guy got toasted by that laser cannon and disintegrated, put through that door.
Oh yeah, the way that wall just kind of folded like the Bears' offensive line last year for me. Fortunately, it's going to get better.
The film that was so great. You're still looking at Andor's face, and you see like a flash, and then you see a reaction. Then there's a hole where he wants what. That was just well done.
Yeah, that was so good. Again, this puts the war in Star Wars. Like, there's nothing pretty. Like, even the action stuff, it's violent, it's visceral, and there's no doubt that there's loss of life. Right? It's heavy. I still maintain that this is not. This isn't something necessarily made for kids, and I guess it doesn't have to be. But this whole thing, in general, the tone of it, this is a different kind of Star Wars. I already mentioned this, but I really feel like, and we'll see this as the series goes on, the fact that it's a TIE and there are stormtroopers, you can tell this exact same story with a biplane or a jet or some sort of a soldier that's an enemy of some kind. It still has the same emotional impact, I think. And that's hard to do. Like, that's hard to do in a Star Wars story. And that's where the brilliance of this lies. And we see that again in just these relationships. And they're not relationships in this season or in this episode yet. But there's tension and there's reasons. And you don't know why people got from point A to point B. And you almost don't care because there's so much going on in the present on screen. And that you said, Tom, this was like the fastest hour. And that's why, I think. Yeah. Any other big things from this that you guys would like to talk about?
I mean,
that would be
the only other thing that they brought up, and we touched on it earlier. just the two guys from the Ministry of Enlightenment, we can now weaponize this galactic opinion.
Yep.
And the strength and audacity of that statement and how it's going to dictate everything from Star Wars that we've learned since 1977. How impactful those words are. Back to Gilroy, just, crushing it.
Yeah, definitely. I like that. I think the way it ends is great, because you've got the next episode. So I'm assuming all of you watched the second episode right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about this? As we wrap up, I want to get a letter grade for all of you. But how do you feel about the release schedule?
It's rough. I love having the 3 in a row, and it was literally less than 24 hours after we had gotten home from Japan. So I'm all messed up anyway, and I'm just like, how am I going to go to sleep tonight not watching these? It's hard. I think it's harder for the fans. And I haven't heard whose decision it was. Maybe that has already been said. I don't know if it's
probably won't. You probably won't find that out, I would guess.
So that's right.
They haven't said.
If it's a creative decision by Gilroy, I'll trust it. If it was a decision by a programmer trying to get the most bang for the buck on things from the business perspective, I think that's where a lot of businesses go wrong in not taking care of their customers or their fans. But that being said, they've got me because I'm going to watch all 3 because I won't be able to go to bed unless I do.
Right.
Well, they drop at what, 8 Central, 9 Eastern?
Yeah, it's 9 here.
Incredibly rough on the fans, and I also, first of all, I think the 3 and 3 and 3 and 3 making like in effect a series of movies, I think is totally cool. I think that's great. But the way it's dropped, I go further. It strikes me almost as some sort of corporate desire to get it over with. Get them out. It'll only take us 4 weeks. And to me, that diminishes the importance of a show that's so important to me. And I think they would naturally lose potential add-on fans that way. It just my thought, or else if dropping it that quickly gets it all on permanently on Disney Plus for everybody to see quicker, maybe there's something there. But I really think it doesn't enable people to kind of savor each episode. People are going to watch 2 or 3 at a time. I suspect there's some monetary reason why they're doing it this way, and I think it's a little crass.
Tom, what do you think about the release schedule?
As a fan, I think I don't like it. I was able to pull off 3 episodes last week for one reason or another, but I doubt that's going to happen again. I'll have to watch them single through several days, which it's fine, but because of the world we live in and because we do have a presence on social media, it's really hard to do that because I don't want spoilers being out there. I don't want to trip and stumble upon something just because I'm just existing in the way in which we exist these days. So that's really frustrating. The only thing that makes it okay for me, and this kind of goes to Ross's point, is if this is done for a story reason, like there's purpose to, we're going to drop 3 episodes because these 3 episodes tell a story, and then we move to the next 3 episodes. I guess that's okay, but still 3 hours on a Tuesday night or, on any night for that matter, that's a big commitment. And that is hard to do. I mean, I'm going to try, but I don't think that's going to be realistic for me. And I don't know. I guess this will be a really good question to reflect back on at the end of the season to say, so how did that impact your viewing? maybe it won't matter at all that I just get, I get to watch one on Tuesday night and I get to watch one in a couple days. I don't know. But it's kind of frustrating to me, but I got to trust the people who put it out and just accept it for what it is.
I think there's so many levels and layers to this. As a fan, I like the long game. I like the water cooler conversation. I imagine, again, if it was one a week for 12 weeks, 3 months of savoring this thing. That's why I always thought it was such a mistake the way they did Stranger Things. Obviously, it didn't hurt the success of the show, but those shows are so powerful. Imagine if you spread them out. This is the same thing with this. And having seen all 12 episodes, there's no way like I could record, like get guests to watch 3 episodes and still have family lives and time and jobs and other hobbies, and they want to get some fresh air once in a while. I couldn't possibly ask someone to do that. That is one of the major reasons why I'm only reviewing 1 episode a week. Because for one thing, they're so rich. Every episode is so packed with conversation points and conversation pieces. Plus, if you do all 3 in one shot, you're going to miss stuff. And I think it does, like you said, John, it does a disservice to the quality of the work. I don't like it all. To me, I think the only misstep of Andor season 2 is the release schedule. It's not the story. And I think I feel pretty confident when we talk about this in 12 weeks, you're all gonna feel the same way. No, for sure. So let's just wrap this up. Let's give our letter grades and just kind of last minute thoughts. Ross, let's start with you. Letter grade on 1 year later.
Strong start. I think there's going to be more, so I'm starting at a B+.
Okay, B+. Tom?
I give it an A, and one of the strongest reasons why is because Star Wars is now 2 for 2 in their last 2 series. My daughter was sitting in the room doing homework when I was watching this. She asked me several questions about what was happening. I said, "I thought you were doing your homework." She goes, I am. And then afterwards, she says to me, "Dad, I think I want to watch. That was really good." Skeleton Crew did the same thing to her. So cool. Hats off to you, Star Wars. It's an A for me.
All right, John.
I'll give it an A-. I was going to say B+, but I don't want to be a copycat. I think things are only going to get better as the show continues. There was some necessary sort of backstory stuff here. I think it was still spectacular, and to leave a little room, I'll give it an A-.
If I was going to review it the first time I watched it, I probably would have given it a B+, A-. But after watching it again and hearing all of your insights, I'm going to give it a really strong A. It's an excellent episode. It's an excellent start to the season. It puts a lot of pieces in place where we look forward to seeing what is going to happen. But there is, and this is such a big thing for me, there's no wasted narrative tissue. None, zero, zilch. And that's so huge to me as a fan of story, as someone who studies stories and spends more time than is rational talking about fiction. This, the way they've kicked this off is a masterclass in an intricate design. It's almost like a Charles Dickens novel. I think I said that for season 1. There's so many characters in a good Charles Dickens novel. They're all good. Some of them are quite loquacious, naturally, but he did get paid by the word. Tony Gilroy is not getting paid by the word, as far as I know. But he is setting out to design this master. Star Wars is opera, sort of science fantasy opera. And this is like almost like it's real. It's like science fiction realism. And it plays out beautifully here.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is...
Gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining me to talk about 1 year later. You did not disappoint, neither did the show. And looking forward to that continuing. Ross, please let everybody know where they can find you and all of your great pictures of Japan and all that good stuff.
Yeah, find me on @PopstarIndie on Instagram. as well as the reviews are already going in for Fantha Tracks. So the all the news in a single line with Mark Newbold and the gang over in the UK.
Excellent. Tom, what's going on with Teachers in the Dungeon?
Yeah, the adventure continues every week. Love to have you all join us. When you're done with Coffee with Kenobi, then turn over to Teachers in the Dungeon for adventure talk, Dungeons and Dragons talk, role play talk. We talk of education, interview authors and other creators in the realm of RPGs. So love to have you join us there. Teachers in the Dungeon is the name of the show. We are also on Instagram and Facebook, Teachers in the Dungeon, and Twitter at Dungeon Teachers.
And John, it was such a great conversation. I knew you'd bring your A game, and you certainly did not disappoint. If people want to reach out to you and ask you,
it was A- game, right?
Stars. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Let us know where they can reach out to you.
I don't have another podcast. I don't have anywhere else to reach me. I was best.
How about a hologram? Can they send you a hologram?
Send me a hologram through Dan Zehr. I would do it like that.
Okay.
Works.
I think we can make that happen.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.